Anyway, how are you?
Good now, yeah.
What's been
Good.
going on? I've been reading your diaries with interest. Seems to be a good pattern overall.
Playing a lot of poker, keeping myself busy, and with the poor sleep, it's been frustrating.
Has that not
Um,
gotten better?
it has gotten a lot better since I gave up caffeine, yeah, but it's still not amazing. But
Hmm.
um, no, it's a lot better though. No, I have to say it's a lot better.
And how would you say the last week has been overall? Looking back on it now, in terms of the ups and downs, surrender, and all that. You did it
The
Sunday.
last few
Yeah.
days have been pretty much um, ordinary, like not much bliss or surrendering going on, I guess. Um, Pretty busy with poker, and I was making some nice meals for the two of us because she's coming home very hungry and tired, so I'm putting in that extra bit of effort. So I've been busy practically, um, so keeping myself distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this morning, then I was playing some poker and I lost like every hand, so I was getting frustrated. It happens, like, but I was getting frustrated, so I took a break, and then for some reason I decided to do a meditation from my phone because my mind's been very fast the last week because surrender's been on the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, I do a different meditation, a walking meditation where you walk and meditate, but you're focusing on external sounds and images. So instead of focusing on inner
Mm-hmm.
monologue,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on outer stuff. And that actually put me into a fairly good headspace, quietness, relaxation. And then I went and had a bath and did another meditation. And now I'm great again. I feel very relaxed. So it's just trying to figure out what is it exactly that puts that state, you know, different meditations surrender, but like there's something that they whatever I'm doing or not doing, they all have something in common, right? It's
Well, perhaps the question that you need to become more curious about is are you are you the one stuck in this cycle, right? Because you're seeking meditative bliss, right? Right, which comes and
yeah.
goes, right? And the question is, to whom does that meditative bliss occur?
Yeah, once again, I think I said it the last day, it's like when there's a lot of bad thoughts going on, or just a lot of thoughts in general, there is a belief or another thought saying like this shouldn't be like that. But once it's realized that those thoughts are just arising, falling away, and that they're not me, that they're just being experienced. Once that's realized, then it seems to lead to a quieter mind in general as a knock on effect. So,
Yeah, well, that's true. That's definitely true.
so who is it to occurring to? It's like I'm aware of it, but it's not me.
Right. So who is the real me then? In that case, is the question.
The observer.
And not even that, right? Because the observer is a word, right?
Observer is a word.
I mean, you observe the fact that you're observing, right?
Yes. So it's back to the self inquiry. It's trying to find the I.
Or I mean, in a way, I mean, what I'm trying to, in a way, push you to do is snap you up beyond the. I mean, self inquiry as a practice is great and all, but the reality is right that right, there's a paradox in self inquiry. You're looking for what you already are, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm essentially trying to just say, well, you are that, right? I mean, I mean, if you clear away all the stuff that you're not, which is everything that you can think of,
which is everything.
which is everything, so what remains?
Nothing.
Well, it seems like nothing. I will say it seems like nothing, but but is it actually nothing? I mean, this is it. It's that beat of silence, right? Right. You're looking. It happens in self inquiry. It happens in surrender, right? Where it's like you're at an impasse, right? It's that moment. That moment of blankness is not actually nothing. When the mind is absent, that's just what you are.
Yeah. Well, I just said nothing there because you said if I'm not anything,
Yes.
then nothing.
Right.
So yeah, as a logical thing.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes.
no, I
Yes.
get you. Yeah.
I mean, by the same token, right? Like thinking about like these poker hands and whatnot, right? Um, have you ever tried surrender while playing?
I have. Yeah.
And what happens?
There's less caring going on, and by less caring, I mean less thoughts coming up about it being shit, or less agitation in the body or moving around. Um, but it depends on the day. But I could lose plenty of hands and be okay. But like when you lose everyone, it's no fun, right? So it's
In terms of trying surrender during something like poker, oh well, let me ask you about something. Let me compare it to something simpler. So, supposing you just surrender in the moment, like right now. What happens to something like your breath? Do you keep breathing?
yeah, everything keeps going.
Right, exactly, right. So, and that quality of that involuntary, automatic quality to breathing, that quality would could be even in poker, right? If that makes sense, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You've experienced
I
that even
actually, I
sometimes.
actually had something similar happen when I was in the bath because I was listening to a Shinzen Young meditation, and he was like, it was like self versus other, and like what you consider yourself in this moment, or what you consider as another. And I didn't consider much as myself, to be honest. Yeah, I was just kind of watching the body, feeling the body, and like washing myself or whatever, and it just didn't feel like me at all in the
Mm-hmm.
moment. If that makes sense, like it felt like foreign. Um,
Yeah.
like the body was doing stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
didn't feel
Yeah.
like I'm washing myself. It was just like Andrew's washing himself, like
Exactly.
detached from what was going on. In a
And even that sense of detachment only comes about because there is
thought
sporadic
about
sense of attachment. It's a back and forth, right? Any kind of description of it, right, is because of a contrast.
right
Ul-
distinction.
ultimately, ultimately, right, what we're trying to do is just notice a constancy, basically, right? What is it that's constant? Right? What is it that's constant and effortless, right? Because going back and forth, like seeking meditative, quiet, right? Or even like you said, right? Sometimes, there's a thought that this shouldn't be like this, right? Right? You
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, right? So,
Oh yeah.
so that thought, this shouldn't be like this, you're bringing that up as a problem is itself an instance of itself. Does that make sense? You think the
I do,
thought, yeah. Sorry, I phrased it in a confusing way,
yeah.
right? So when you say that this thought, this shouldn't be like this, or even this thought shouldn't be like this, comes up. When you bring that up as an example of losing meditative bliss, that very you're that's a judgment against that thought. That, right? Like I shouldn't
Yeah.
have the thought this shouldn't be like this.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No, it does. Yeah, and I think I mentioned something like that in one of my emails about a subtler thought that came after it to say like that thought shouldn't be there or something. And then in the past, I'm believing that one, so it's like
Right.
it got me.
Right.
So like
Right.
I realized
Right.
the first one wasn't me, but the second subtler, quieter one is like, oh, that is me, because that's saying, oh, don't be like that. No, that's not good. So it's trying to grab me and pull me back into the illusion, which is kind of funny in a way.
What
Um,
prevents you basically from, like, I mean, like I asked you this a session or two ago, but I'm going to ask you again. First of all, I have to say, I perceive a difference in you. I have to say, it feels different. Your mind does feel quieter. I have to say, to me,
yeah.
just very, I don't know, from a very just an instinctual or intuitive point of view. But anyway, I'm just mentioning that. But a separate thing is this: is what prevents you again from just totally relaxing into that spa-like bliss, which of course is misleading because that's a contrastual term. What prevents you from just doing that and never re-arising?
I think what prevents me from doing it is the actual trying to do it.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, so let me explain experientially.
Tell
So
me.
I feel great now. My mind is quiet and I'm blissful. And there's no trying to be like that. And there's no caring about being it. But then when the mind is fast, it's like wanting to get back there. And it's like that wanting and trying to get back there just perpetuates it more and just makes it like worse, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, that makes
And
perfect
and the
sense.
mind in that sense is trying to figure out, what it's all about, enlightenment or like the surrender. It's like, oh, is it this, is it that, or whatever. but
Mm.
now but now there's no trying to figure out anything. It's just like peace, which is what peace is, right? There's
No, I mean,
so
you're absolutely right. So I mean, but do you perceive yourself like But it's because it sounds like so. Two things. One is, so you're absolutely right. I mean, from one point of view, there's a game to be played, which is, it is this game of letting go, right? And like you
mm,
say, it tries to grab you, and it's
yeah,
not that you fight it; it's that you let go in response. You just let go, and you let go, and you let go,
yeah,
right? What does letting go mean? It means literally just relaxing, just relaxing.
yeah, yeah.
You
Like
know,
some people say accepting or allowing, but they're all just words anyway, so it's if
yeah,
whatever word works for you, I guess. um
because the problem I have with accepting is it suggests an affirmative action, right? Whereas really what I'm pointing to is neither acceptance nor rejection, right? The very tool with which you would either accept or reject that instrument, you relax that instrument. It's exactly like, it's like you know it's like a muscle. It's exactly like a muscle, right? It's neither that you pick the object up nor that you put it down. It's that you just
yeah,
relax the muscle. You completely relax the muscle.
yeah, letting go and surrender are just better terms.
Yeah, that's right. So, so definitely on the one hand there is that game, but on the other hand, what I'm curious about is there seems to be a variation in your motivation to. But tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just looking at your diaries. That's the sort of impression I got. Right, like, so some days you are, quote unquote pursue it, but other days it doesn't occur to you, or
Yeah,
what, or what is it on those days that it doesn't happen? What happens during those days?
just like busy doing other stuff, poker and stuff, like practical life stuff. And you always say, what's stopping you from surrendering then?
Right.
But it's too much to take on at once or something, or there's a belief that it's too much to take on at once.
Right, because there's an inherent belief still that you have the burden of doership, right? Again,
Mm.
right? Because in other words,
Yeah.
you have a checklist of like, oh, I've got to do like X, Y, Z today, like buy the ingredients from the grocery store for the meal I want to cook, and play this poker hand or whatever it is, right? And there's a belief that I've got to get up out of bed to do all these things, right?
Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, it could just be, oh, I don't want to do that surrender thing today. I'm moody, leave me alone. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yes, yes.
it's like, oh, it's too much. I can't do that now. I'm just going to be moody or something. Or like, yeah.
But it's interesting
Why
because
is that?
is a surrender. I mean, the surrender is really the ultimate laziness, right? I mean, like that's one way of thinking about it, right?
It's true, isn't it?
All you have to do is be incredibly lazy. That's really all that's being asked, right? If you're like, I am not going to voluntarily move a muscle, right? I'm not going to do that. I mean, my body can move itself on my own, but I'm just going to hang out here and do nothing and watch what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. But the mind does jump in like quite quickly, even when you do that. But if that's
Yes.
what's happening, that's what's happening.
I mean, the mind can jump in, and the thing is that mind is really it's still not affecting you. That's the point, right? So like you're when you surrender, essentially what you're just doing is you're just identifying with the non-mind in a way. That's a way of looking at it, right? I mean, let the mind jump in as long as there is a little core piece, which there always is, that's unaffected, right? You just stay with that core piece and let the mind do it at once. I mean, let all whatever emotions come up. If there's fear, if there's anxiety, if there's irritation, if there's movement, it doesn't really matter. All you have to do is say, come what may. It's like the hurricane might hit my house. Let it. I'm not moving.
Hmm.
I'm not moving voluntarily. I find my, like you said, the body might wash itself, it might play poker, and it might go to the grocery store, and it might cook all by itself.
Mm.
If it wants to do that, fine. But I'm,
That seems tough in the moment, though.
yes.
Like,
Well, that seems tough, right?
you know,
Because, right, it does seem tough, but that's what you have to experiment with. Are things going to grind to a halt if you do that, right? And even if they do grind to a halt, so what? But that is what is going to that's what's going to give you freedom essentially ultimately, right? Is a total, I mean, the other flip side of the coin is self-inquiry. So if you want to be active, you can do that, but essentially that's what's going to grind things to a halt at the very, very deepest level, and more than that, just give you immediate peace. I mean, that's the immediate peace that's being talked about, right? What's difficult in the moment about it? What is difficult? To whom is the difficulty occurring? I mean, that's what you really got to do, right? I mean, like there's a pressure, like, oh, I've got to do this. The mind's like, oh, I don't want to do that surrender today or whatever it is, right? And
mm,
you don't even have to quote unquote do that surrender. I mean, it's not even a thing. All surrender is not doing anything really,
right.
right? So it's the urge. What you're saying is there's an urge to do, which is totally
Hmm.
fine. So you could that urge can manifest as long as at some level it's without you. It's everything can happen if it wants to. It's almost like this metaphor suddenly occurs to me. Um, Not that I know anything about this. This is really going to be a terrible metaphor, but like like taming a wild horse or something like that, right? You're not trying to like just use your body to like control it, right? There's in some sense you could just sort of be so relaxed that whatever the horse does, you're sort of on its back, no matter what, right? It can buck this way or that way, it can go left or right or forward or back, but you're just so relaxed that you just flow with it, whichever way it goes. Or it's like a ribbon in the wind or something like that, right? Again, like whichever way the wind goes, i.e., whichever way the mind goes, like the ribbon is just sort of buffeted by it, right? And it just sort of stays floating no matter what, right? So you can push it from any direction. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what direction. It will still just be there.
I don't know if it's Zen or what it is, but Shinzen talked about riding the ox of consciousness.
Yeah, right. That's
Whatever.
a Zen metaphor. Yeah, totally, exactly. But I guess what I'm pointing at is it is all about that. It's not about controlling. I mean, it is and it isn't about controlling what the mind does. Again, is my point, right? So let the mind be impatient or fearful or do things or whatever it wants. It doesn't really matter whether it's blissful or non-blissful. It doesn't matter, because the bliss we're talking about is not the bliss that comes and goes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, although the bliss
Permanent.
that comes and goes is a reflection of the real bliss, so it's not totally
Right.
unrelated. But
Right.
but so in that moment when you're like, oh, I want to get back there. I want to get back there. And the way to get back there is drop everything. Just drop thought.
That wanting to get back there is more thought, so just drop that.
Just drop everything, exactly. Just drop, just go slack. I mean, it really is a mental analog of literally letting all the muscles go slack in your body. It's the mental analog of that. Right? If you're holding some stuff, right? I mean, and if you just suddenly let all your muscles drop all at once, right? Whatever you were holding would drop.
Physical and mental, just. Actually, what could be good is if I get a tough time and I'm at home, is to just maybe even meditate sitting for 5 minutes or something, surrendering, and then trying to incorporate that when you can sit.
Because you find that helps, basically.
Yeah, well, I think anytime you do like a sitting meditation, then with practice that will move into everyday life. So yeah.
I mean, again, I'm sort of pushing you to look though. But why do you need sitting meditation? Why not just stay where you are constantly? I want you to be
Okay.
greedier for perfect peace immediately, right? The perfection is
Okay.
within your grasp. It
Be
is. I
greedy.
mean, grasp is not even the right word. It's within. It's just a matter of letting go and 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 not it's not clinging. That's all. It's not holding on to anything.
Hmm.
And then ask yourself at some certain point, what's not holding on?
What's not holding on?
Yeah, exactly. What is it? Because even this idea, well, and you're right. Your mind is right in a sense to say, I don't want to do the surrender thing right now. I mean, that's in a sense it's true, because doing surrender, right? That's still an effort.
Mm. Yeah,
So
and it
if you,
feels like an effort to such a lazy person like me. It's like, ugh.
yeah, right. So I mean, but is there anyone in fact doing anything? That's not a very useful question, really, in the end sense. Self inquiry is, again, focusing on the I, right? So where is the I in that doing is the question. Let's try it right now. Let's do
The
this.
thought.
Let's do this experiment.
Okay.
So let's let's surrender for just a few minutes, and then well, while you're doing it, while you're surrendering, also be inquiring, where is the I in the situation that's surrendering. So surrender, and let's simultaneously just keep in mind this question: where's the I? Okay, 5 minutes. Let's just try that.
Okay.
Let's just see what happens.
Okay.
All right. So how was that?
It's nice.
And did you have any? Did you? How was the self inquiry part of it?
I kind of felt like it was kind of a paradox, you know. I'm trying to
Yes.
surrender everything, and at the same time, it's like, where am I? And then I'm surrendering that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That's right. You know, it might be worth it. I'm just thinking. You know, those times when your mind is active and it's curious and it wants to do stuff. I mean, those might be the times when when it might be worth trying. I mean, you can try surrender though during those times also, like we talked about it a minute ago, but you could try self inquiry during those times because I mean it's fine. There's clearly, like you said, a wanting to piece together, a wanting to understand, right?
mhm.
So that part of your
Yes,
mind, gear it towards looking for the eye because do you do you see how that's still a mystery? How would you
I
describe
do.
that?
Yeah, yeah. It's pure not knowing, like what the hell is going on.
And yet it is a knowing because so it's yes, it's a not knowing, but it's also there's also something very obvious about it, right? Because even the very instrument, even when you say I don't know what it is, right? You know the I knows that statement,
Yeah.
right? So like once you've, I mean, what happens in self inquiry for you?
Um, it keeps jumping from moment to moment of trying to find the eye and always being aware of something objective, and then noticing that I'm aware of that and keep jumping and jumping, and it's becoming more and more intense, and like, and then it's like everything becomes more vivid and high def. uh, like I'm incredibly aware and attentive, like I am right now, and the mind is very quiet. I guess when I get into a blissful, quiet mind like this from surrender, the thought should just arise then, okay, let's do the self inquiry. Because I haven't, I've just been sitting there like I'm doped out of it after smoking way too much weed or
Nothing
something. I'm
wrong
just
with
like,
that, actually. Honestly,
yeah.
there isn't. I mean,
So,
that's
yeah,
bliss. That piece is that is your birthright. You could say.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's just that you don't want to be kicked out of it, quote unquote. You can never be kicked out of it, but there can be a thought that arises
I
that.
think
So,
I'm losing you a bit.
oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah. I don't know if it's my internet or your internet, but you're a bit blurry now, and you kind of like cut out
Oh,
once.
really?
But I can still hear you. It's the sound is fine.
Oh,
So
really? Okay. Oh, it's strange because you're clear on video and audio for me. Strangely enough.
yeah, and my own video and audio looks clear. Now you're coming back in a little bit better
Oh, good.
now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. I've never had a problem in the past anyway, so we won't worry about it for now.
So, because with self inquiry, I mean, do you see how there is a constant there's a constant knowing
Hunting.
there's a constant knowing too, so there's a not knowing, there's a jumping around to the mind, a looking for the eye, right? But
Hmm.
do you see how at every moment whatever thought that arises that's quote unquote objective and that's quote unquote not the I, it's also indicating the I in a sense. Does that make sense?
It's also indicating the eye.
Right, because it's occurring to you, right? So the
Oh yeah.
right that makes sense, right? So
Hmm.
it is like that there is a constant knowing that you are, and
Oh
then
yeah.
right, and
Hmm.
so in a way, what we're doing is we're trying to squint and sort of discern away. I mean, you have basically, so in Vedanta, there's an idea of what's called superimposition, right? So you have stuff projected onto the self, right? And the problem is because the stuff projected onto the self, you can't see the self. But the self is nevertheless there in and through all of these so-called objective thoughts. Exactly like a movie screen. Of course, we've used that analogy before, but I'll use it again, right? So in every image of the movie screen, image onto it, right? Like every image of the movie, in other words, right? Like the image of the movie is objective, but every image of the movie is on that screen. So every image of the movie is both the image, right? Like if it's the Titanic or whatever it is, right? It's the image of the boat, but it's also the fact that it's on a screen, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So every image that changes is both the image, it's both the objective, right? The wrong thing, the not I, right? And it's also reflective of the I simultaneously.
So, are you saying that I am what I am the observer, but I'm also the observed?
Yeah, well, that's certainly true. That's certainly true. But that's again, um, I mean, well, we're all in concepts, but that's more of a concept. But
Hmm.
what I'm really getting at is that it's in a way, it's not fully dismissing all the objects of thought as just objective and therefore not the I. As they are not the I, they are also indicating intuitively what the I is, because it's that reflective aspect of them, if that makes any sense. So, for example, like you're seeing my image right now, right, on the
Hmm.
screen, right? So you're like, oh, is that the I? Well, it's clearly not the I because I'm aware of the image of the screen, right? So it's not the I, obviously, right? At the same time, the image in the screen that you're seeing is occurring in your awareness. The
Hmm.
quality by which it occurs in your awareness to you, that quality is also present in this image. So if you can just focus on that aspect of it, which is the fact that it's being presented to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
kind
there's
of.
the content of the image, which is my face, my
Yeah,
beautiful face,
yeah.
and then there is the fact of its reflection in your awareness, right? You're experiencing this face,
Yes.
right? So that fact of your experience, that is in all the objective things,
Yeah.
right?
The knowing of it.
The knowing of it. So that knowing of it, if you can just keep track of that, right? That's in effect. That's in
Okay.
effect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like if I
Is that self-inquiry to you, or is that something different? Keeping
it's
track.
the same as self inquiry for sure.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly the
Yeah. Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
It's just worded in a slightly different way because
Right.
you need a
Yeah.
different angle to sometimes see what's happening. What you're doing is you're keeping track of that fact that it's
I
known,
know it.
that it's I know it
Yeah.
exactly. I know this image. I know this the next image and the image after that,
Right.
right?
Okay.
And so everything that occurs, I know it, right? So can you just
Hmm.
focus on self inquiry means you keep your focus laser attentive to that I know aspect of it.
Hmm.
Because that's the same as, do you see the connections are between this? It's exactly the same as if you were looking at the movie screen and I said, whatever images occur, keep your attention laser focused on the physical screen behind the image, right? All the images
Hmm.
occur on the physical screen.
Hmm.
So I want you to keep your attention, whatever images occur, notice that each image occurs on the physical screen.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's exact. Do you see the analogy? Do you see the connection between what I'm drawing
Yeah.
here? Or if I said, you look at a mirror, but whatever happens in the mirror, look at the reflective quality of the mirror, right? The mirror is reflecting, right? So just notice the surface, the reflective surface of the mirror, right? Whatever occurs on the mirror, it's all a reflection, right? So I want you to notice the fact that it's being reflected. So it's not quite as simple as simply saying, oh, it's an image, therefore it's just not I. I mean, yeah, that's true in a sense, but the other sense is every image also is an opportunity to see the mirror. The mirror reflects.
Right. Sometimes in meditation, with seeing, you're advised to look at things as if you're looking through them and not like directly at them. So you're not trying to figure out what they are, but just the fact that you're seeing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of helps me in relating to what you're saying.
Yes. So exactly, right. In a way, you're looking through them to the fact that they're arising in your experience. Every image is arising in your experience. And you just sort of
Yeah.
keep track of that aspect of it, you know? Or it would be like, and I've used this analogy. Go ahead, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say you could say something similar with like other um, things like like what you hear, like instead of like just listening to it without judging it, like, and the same with thought, just seeing it more as noise or sound rather than what it's talking about.
Right. And but even, even the thoughts about what it's talking about, those also occur to you, right?
Yeah,
Right? So
yeah,
whatever
more
it is,
sound.
right? So even all the thoughts about meaning, right? We're not excluding anything here. Everything, all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the complex mental calculation, even, it all has that quality of occurring to you.
Hmm.
And if you can just train your mind to focus on that facet of it, that's unchanging, actually, right? So it appears to change, but it's all arising to you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
So that would be self inquiry. Would be to laser focus on that piece of it and just notice, continuously notice the there's a continuity there, right? It's exactly like the mirror, exactly like the movie screen, right? Um, that whatever occurs is occurring to you.
yeah.
And then this question of, but who is this me? That is just a verbal formulation. Okay, you can even really discard that in a way. What we're really
But
trying to
sometimes
do.
it will pop back
Oh
up.
yeah,
Sometimes it will pop back up and then remind you.
it's totally fine. I mean,
That's how it's benefits. But yeah, I get you. Yeah,
yes, yes, exactly.
it's a non-verbal practice or
The key point
non-practice.
is the real self inquiry is keeping your attention trained on the fact that each experience has that quality, that it's occurring to you, that it's arising to you, that it's arising to your experience. And every second, that fact doesn't change.
And that it will always be that way.
It
It
will always
has
be
to
that
be.
way. Everything is occurring to you constantly. It only occurs to you. It occurs to no one else but you. You have no access to anything beyond that. And that
Yeah,
fact of things occurring to you, this occurs to me, that occurs to me, the other thing occurs to me. The feeling occurs to me, the thought occurs to me, the perception occurs to me, the other person occurs to me, the conflict occurs to me, everything occurs to me, it occurs to me, it occurs to me, it occurs to me, right? And so just holding on to that. It's really the exact reverse move of surrender, if you notice, right? Because surrender is let go, and that letting go, a continuous letting go, right? Like, like no matter what happens, I'm not going to hold on to it, right? It's
hmm,
exactly the reverse, but it's really the same as I'm going to attend only to the fact that it's occurring to me.
yeah. I kind of see how that is now.
In both
Because
cases,
when
yes.
you're inquiring and holding on to the knowing of everything, then simultaneously you're kind of letting go of the content of everything that you're
Exactly.
experiencing.
That's right. Precisely.
Right. But when you try to do them, they can feel quite different.
Yes. Yes.
um,
Yes. 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 They can.
so I see how they can work hand in hand with each other. Okay.
So this is the experiment because essentially, essentially what has to happen, right, is, as you do one or the other or both of these in alternation, right, you will increasingly tame the mind. And, you know, taming the mind is not by itself exactly the goal, but it is that's the critical step that has to be made uh, to sort of grasp the insight that you're looking for, essentially.
Mhm. Would you describe enlightenment as an insight, or it's not? You can't call it that.
You can call it that. It's fine. I mean, the reality is, I mean, what exactly it is can't be described, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For the moment, it's fine to call it an insight. There is a kind of insight to it, quality to it. I mean, the insight, in a way, obviates the fact of itself, but it doesn't matter. The
Okay.
fact is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah,
The fact is, the fact is, from the seeker's perspective, we can call it. It's fine to call it a search. It is a search in a sense. It's just a search for something which is right there in front of you, really. And again and again, right, while you're doing these things, the question should reoccur, right? Like I'm saying, hold on to the fact that the object is being experienced by you. But then who is doing that holding on? That's the question that will eventually you'll have to, I mean, will keep recurring. Who who is being asked to hold on?
Okay, good stuff.
Okay, so I think you should view it as an experiment. You're try pushing your boundaries of comfort a little bit in terms of trying this stuff while you're doing other things. And if your mind is restless, try self inquiry if you want. You can switch it up. You can go between the two, but essentially, right. You are hunting for something. There is a quality of that. It's fine. It's fine to say that, even though if in the end result you are that, it's true. But from your perspective, there is a hunt. There is a hunt, and if you want to find the treasure at the end of the rainbow, it is about your thirst for it and how much you want it. And that's what it comes down to ultimately. So the more you want it, the better.
That pot of gold at the end
The
of the
pot of the gold.
rainbow.
There is a pot of gold at the end. There really is. There is a pot of gold. It may be very different than what you think it is, but it is a pot of gold for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what's usually said about it. Yeah, I have a dinner party coming up this weekend, Saturday. It's kind of like a going away party for me and my partner. So
Oh, cool.
there'll be a lot of people there. So that'll be a good opportunity to inquire
Yes.
or just be aware that I'm aware.
Yes. Because there is a riddle. There's a riddle here. Put all your attention on solving the riddle, or even surrender is part of that solving that riddle. I mean, it's all part of the same thing. But yeah, I mean, this is this is a mythological quest. I mean, it is. So I just want to give a little bit of glamour here. It is. It's a mythological quest, and it is. It's not something which is it is very ordinary, but it's also not ordinary at all. So, you know,
Like everything in this line of work,
like
lots of
everything.
contradictions.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.